I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I thought I would tier rank all of the 144 books that I read in 2022. This is so that you can sort of get a feel of what I've been reading, um, and what I enjoy, and probably what I'm going to be reading more of based on what I enjoyed. Um, so, because there's 144 of them, I'm just going to get going, and I'm not probably going to go into a lot of detail. Um, Otherwise, we will be here forever. So my categories are new favorite, a jolly good time, above average, mid, no strong feelings, and why did I do this to myself? The first two books I have are 21 Lessons for the 21st Century and Homo Deus, A History of Tomorrow by the same author. Um, this is part of like a trilogy. You've got obviously the future, the now, and the past is the one that I previously read. Now, I enjoyed the other book that he did a lot more, and so I'm gonna put these in probably above average because I did enjoy them quite a lot. The information that they gave was interesting, but I did enjoy the other one more because I enjoy learning about history quite a bit, and these are more sort of speculative um, sort of ideas. A Dead Djinn in Cairo. This is a novella. It's really short, and I think that it accomplished a lot in what it sort of had in terms of page number. Um, it had a lot of good ideas that I'm excited to sort of see when I get round to reading the other novellas in the series. Now I'm going to hurt some people here with a darker shade of magic. Above average, I think they are good. The characters are good, but it's just not my kind of writing style. And I think if I enjoyed the writing style more, I would have enjoyed the series overall a lot more than I did. Um, A Storm of Swords, easy 5 stars. The second part was my favourite book of the year. Well, the book as a whole, probably my top book of the year. Um, if you've ever seen the show, this is like peak Game of Thrones sort of action. All the character arcs sort of coming together. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed those. Um, Not as good, but still pretty good. A Feast of Crows and Fire and Blood, which is the sort of book that House of the Dragon is based on. Last year, I went on a big House of the Dragon kick, and that's what made me finally finish the Game of Thrones series. I loved Fire and Blood. Again, one of my tops. Um, Now I read the whole of the 9 series of books for the Sherlock Holmes series. I can't really differentiate some of these because it's like the case book of Sherlock Holmes, the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, uh, Sherlock Holmes collection. And a lot of them have a lot of small short stories, and so once you've read them all in sort of a short space of time, you can't remember which one's better than the rest. I do know that A Study in Scarlet wasn't as good because the second half follows Mormons and has nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, the Return of Sherlock Holmes, um, His Last Bow, and I am missing one, I think. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing one. I will put it in when I find it. But there it is. The Hound of the Baskervilles is also a jolly good time. Um, Next, Afterlife of Holly Chase started out sort of mid, but the last section puts it into above average. I was not enjoying it nearly as much as I was hoping to until I got to the ending. The ending made it a lot better, I think. And I think I would like to go back and read it maybe this Christmas to sort of see how my opinions changed now that I've read the ending. Amarian the Great Game, it's the sequel to Amarian the Night Brothers. I think the first one's a little bit better, but I think that's because the second one had a few too many plot points. And the plot point I was most interested in didn't have enough time spent on it, but it's still a jolly good time. Carry On is mid. Anyway, the Wind Blows, mid. Wayward Son, above average. The first book was too forced in its Britishness and it's trying too hard to be British. It's got a lot of references that sort of felt shoehorned in. It was still quite fun, but the second one I think is where it really shines, and then the third one, well, yeah, let's put the third one up here. The third one is a good rounding off of the series. Aristotle and Dante discover the waters of the world. I think this is a book where it's like no plot, mostly vibes. And the vibes are good, not as good as the first one, but I still really enjoyed them. Now, As Good as Dead is my first Why Did I Do This to Myself book. The first two had some suspension of disbelief, but the third book kind of took it too far. The second half of it made no sense, and I hated all of the decisions made by the main character. So, I am now, the whole trilogy is ruined. Um, and we should move on. The Atlas 6 is another new favourite. Again, this has got more plot, but it's got a lot of vibes. The characters are really interesting and I like them a lot. I'm interested in the plot, and I still can't believe I haven't got to the second one yet. Alright, next. A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is one where I am interested to watch the movie for when I finally get my adaptation board up and running. A lot of people have a lot of negative reviews. I thought it was pretty good. It was quite interesting to see the character motivations and learn more of the history of the world, because the world is quite interesting. But probably not one I will reread. The Blade itself is a jolly good time. Grimdark fantasy. The characters are being set up sort of for the trilogy as a whole. It's like we're getting all our chess pieces out, ready for the next two books, and so I think the next two are probably going to be better than the first. Brave New World. Why did I do this to myself? I think I would have benefited from reading this in college or at school, because this made no sense and I felt like there was no point to reading it at all. And it was only 200 pages. I feel like it took way longer than it needed to for me to read it. And I might read it again in the future, but it will have to be some time in the future. A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking's writing is very approachable, and he explores some really good and interesting ideas. Good for someone who does not have that much physics knowledge. as it gives sort of like a brief and simplistic sort of overview of the ideas as a whole. The Man Who Died Twice and The Bullet That Missed, the second and third book in the Thursday Murder Club series. The Thursday Murder Club series is one where I read the first book, wasn't that impressed, but people have been saying the second book was much better, and it was. The characters really sort of came into their own. I felt they were more distinguished. The writing was easier to follow, and the hijinks are a lot more fun. And the second book really was really good. Better than the third book. But I am still excited for the fourth book, which should be out later this year. If you want a cozy murder mystery with a bunch of retired people who get into mischief, then I would definitely recommend. Children of Time and Children of Ruin. Children of Time better than Children of Ruin. Really good exploration of sci-fi. And instead of sort of rooting for the humans, you might find yourself rooting for something else. Dinosaur Therapy. It's short, it's fun, it's dinosaur therapy cartoons. Six Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise. Duology. I liked the second one better than the first one. I thought the first one was a bit lackluster, and the plot of the second one had my attention a lot more. If you like sort of lyrical, beautiful writing, then I would say this one might be for you. Where the Drowned Girls Go, next book in the Wayward Children series. It's a bunch of short books, about 200 pages, following portal fantasy worlds, where there is a home for children who have gone to these fantasy worlds and then have come back but want to find their world again, but knowing they probably won't. And this is just the next installment. This one was actually quite interesting. It's about a second home where people want to forget their worlds instead of going back to them. Earth Girl, Earth Star, Earth Flight. It's not for me. I enjoyed what I read because I read the whole trilogy. It was a fast read, but it didn't have much substance, and I have forgotten 95% of the plot. But if you like dystopia, and you like things that have a little bit of romance, not too much stakes, it's low stakes, and nothing bad is going to happen, and maybe a good series for a 12-year-old girl. Emperor's Blades. It's gonna go in mid. It's got a lot of intriguing elements. The characters, the world, intriguing. The writing wasn't quite for me. I've heard it gets better, so I may still continue this series. But who knows? The X-Hex. Halloweeny, cute romance. Nothing too serious. Definitely a good Halloween read for the person in your life who doesn't like horror and likes Hallmark movies. Now, this is the era I started the Keepers of the Lost Cities series, which I am still continuing on with. These books have an excellent world building, but the thing that really shines out in this series is the friendships. The friendships, there's quite a lot of them, and there's a lot of different dynamics, um, and each one shines in different parts of the series. Fahrenheit 451 is mid. I definitely would have benefited from reading this in a group or at school or college. It had some interesting ideas, but without the discussion element, I think it's just an alright book. Flower Clowns and Fearsome Things. Poetry collection. I cannot remember anything from it, so I have no strong feelings. I think I remember liking it, but it didn't make a profound impact on me. The Folding Knife, above average. The characters was excellent. The plot was excellent. But the writing style is not quite for me. It's military fantasy. I say fantasy. It's fantasy-esque. The world is fantasy, but there's no magical elements and there's no monsters or such. Um. So yeah, an excellently written book. It's just not what I like to read. Gallant, something that's even more um not what I like to read. I have liked Schwab in the past, and I have hopes that I will like Schwab in the future. This just wasn't it. If you like the Night Circus, then you might like that. Um, it's just not got enough of a point for me to enjoy. Gilded Wolves, Silvered Serpents, and Bronze Beasts. I thoroughly enjoyed the books. The characters were great. I think maybe I'll put Bronze Beast in mid. I don't think the series ended it how I would have liked for it to have ended. It just sort of lacked any impact. Um, The Last Graduate is one of my new favourites, and The Golden Enclaves is a jolly good time. I enjoyed the setting of the second one and the premise a lot more. The trilogy did end well and it was good, but the second one really had all the elements of that type of setting that I loved coming together into one book that just felt like it had everything I wanted from that type of school magic setting. Um, Blood and Honey and Gods and Monsters go into mid. I enjoyed them, but the first one was just. The first one is like a marriage of convenience. Um, love, hate to love sort of plot. And I feel like the next two sort of lost some of the magic that was there in the first book. Red Rising, the first trilogy. Um, yeah, a jolly good time. This trilogy had so many twists and turns and was a roller coaster of a time, and it was really good, and I may even reread it before the last book of the next series comes out. Agatha Christie's Halloween Party, above average. It's hard pressed to find an Agatha Christie that I don't like that much. A lot of her mysteries are pretty good. The Hating Game. That is a jolly good time. Small woman and large man romance. Office romance. Hate to love. Um, it is short, but it has everything that you need for a good romance. The Hat Makers and the Map Makers. Um, Middle grade. Uh, you know what? The Hat Makers and the Map Makers is a whimsical middle grade fantasy where these hat makers have magical ingredients from like starlight and dew from the grass that have magical abilities that makes the wearer feel different emotions or have confidence, and there's an evil plot that they have to stop, and it is fun and exciting and all about acceptance. The Heartstopper graphic novels, again, light-hearted, cheesy romance books. They are very good. I enjoyed them a lot, and I read them all really fast. I think most of them I read in one sitting. I would definitely read them again if I needed a pick-me-up. They do talk about some hard topics like um, coming out and also eating disorders. Ah, Her Majesty's Royal Coven is the hidden gem of my collection. I read it, I thought it was very good, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've enjoyed it, and the more I'm excited for the sequel coming out in the middle of the year. It's very different to any books that I've read about witches before. It's a very modern setting, um, and there's a lot of traditional values going against new acceptance of individuality. Um, and the twist at the end just makes me more excited for the next one. Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. Death has to become Santa Claus in a exciting hijinks of a book. Definitely a must Christmas time read. Um, Sarah J. Maas's House, Sky and Breath. I'm going to make some people mad by putting it in new favourite. Some people will say I don't understand how anyone can like this book, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought that the plot was exciting and that it was a journey, and I am excited for the next book and to see where it's going. Alright, getting into some non-fiction. I have no strong feelings about these three. Um, I think a lot of self-help books are repetitive. I think a lot of them you could probably watch a 10-15 minute video and it will give you all the information you need without telling you all of the anecdotes of the people's lives where they've implemented this. I don't think you need that for everything. Um, and so I have no strong feelings. Illustrated Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I won't say too much on that, but I did enjoy it. Um, Infamous and where's the other one? Reputation. I can't remember which one's which, but one of them, I think it was Infamous, I liked more than Reputation. Either way, one of them's in jolly good time and one of them's in above average. Whichever one is the one where they went to the island is the one I liked less. Invisible Woman. A jolly good time, and by a jolly good time I mean this book made me mad and more angry than any book I've read. Um, the facts represented in this book where women are just not taken seriously in medicine, in medical tests, in safety tests for like seatbelts on cars, will make you very, very mad at a lot of people, especially society. Jane Eyre, why did I do this to myself? And by that I mean, why did I continue to read the book even though I had no strong feelings, but I kept reading and it's a chunky, chunky book. Um, and I have no idea what most of the book was about. I have removed it from my mind. Um, Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mum Died shows the worst parts of being a child actor. If you have an abusive mother, um, then this is what living with a mother like that can be like. Um, if you want the opposite side of the story, Tom Felton's um, new book shows a really good look at the other side of being a child actor and when you have a supportive family surrounding you. Um, so yeah. Sarah J. Maas's second half of the Throne of Glass series. I read the first three, well, three, four in the previous year, so I finished off the second half. I would say the last three are a jolly good time, and the other two above average. I enjoyed where it ultimately went. I thought some of them could have been a little bit shorter than what they were, but I did enjoy all of them nonetheless. Um, Kiss Her Once for Me is a new romance, Christmassy romance, lesbian romance, um, book that I was surprised it was as good as it was. I didn't think it was. I thought it was gonna be a fun, cheesy romance. For the Christmas season, that would just be fun. But I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I might have to pick it up again. For this Christmas season. Legends and Lattes goes at the top of a jolly good time if you want low stakes D&D based fantasy where an orc gets a coffee shop, then this is the book for you. It's like a warm hug. Love on the Brain, another favourite. Um, a lot of people don't like this as much as the first book she put out, but I liked it more. I don't know what it is about it. I think I just related more. Um, there were several moments where the characters made me want to throw the book across the room, and so any book that gets that sort of reaction from me is definitely a favourite. Magnus Chase gets above average. It's not my favourite from Rick, but it was interesting. The characters were interesting. I don't know if I've outgrown his books or that this just wasn't my favourite of the bunch. I did really enjoy the characters though. Some of them were good. Um, the Talking Sword was a bit much at points, but again, it's for not my age group. Um, even though I enjoyed it a lot. Um, the next is a series, the House of Night series, which I started a long time ago, trying to reread a bunch of them to see if I could make it to the end because I never got there. And the first ones I have no strong opinions about. But the last ones, why did I do this to myself? I could have stopped earlier. I didn't need to reread as many as I did to figure out that these books are not for me anymore. Um, Nature Obscura, a jolly good time. I am on a nature kick at the moment, and every now and again I will pick up a plant or an animal based um, book. The Never Ending Story. Why did I do this to myself? This book is so long. It didn't need to be that long. I don't know why it was that long. It could have made its point a lot sooner than it did. It just kept going. It was, in fact, the never ending story. Um, Nick and Charlie, I'll put it in above average. I don't really remember anything about it, but I probably had a good time with it. One Last Stop, a jolly good time. Time traveling romance. It was just really good. One of the girls. This is not my genre. This is a thriller, but I really enjoyed the characters. The characters were really interesting. They all had something to hide, which sort of, you know, kept you wanting to read more. I don't think I put it down very much the weekend that I read it. Um, and if you want a good holiday island mystery, then that is a good one. Uh, on the origin of evolution and a pocket history of human evolution. I don't remember much. I think it's one of those where I don't remember the specifics, but I probably remember the knowledge I gained somewhere in my brain. The Poppy War is a jolly good time and another series that I should definitely get round to carrying on with. Um, an Asian inspired fantasy based on historical events with magic involved in it um, in this book. It's got interesting world building and I should definitely get on it. Um, a Psalm for the Wild Built and a Prayer for the Crown Shy. Again, a bit like a warm hug. It makes me feel hopeful for the future. I think it's themed like solar punk. You know how you got like steampunk? This is solar punk, so it's like a future where we sort of gone back to nature and not destroyed the planet. um, but yeah, they're short and there's only two of them. Would you rather Tapas, Tears, Perfect End, Love You Babe, and Pride and Penalties? Definitely not the target audience for these anymore. Definitely should have read them a lot sooner than I did. Um, they're all really interesting and they have some good messaging, but they also have some terrible messaging. I remember one of them definitely has some questionable morals. Um, Ready Player 2, made better by the audiobook narrated by Will Wheaton, but the first is definitely the superior book of the two. It does have a good sort of mystery with a time crucial element. Um, so if you're into that, then there's nothing to lose. Recursion, a jolly good time. I will also put Upgrade by Blake Crouch also in a jolly good time. Both fast paced, both explores really interesting scientific ideas. Um, and it's sort of like reading a movie. Red Queen and White Queen. Red Queen will go in above average, and White Queen will go in a jolly good time. The White Queen, House York, Red Queen, House Lancaster in the Cousins War. I did not like the character in Red Queen. She's a bit uppity, um, and I did not enjoy her as much as the White Queen. I am still making my way through this series and still following additional members of the extended families throughout different time periods. And I'm excited to see where it's gonna go, even though I know some of it because it is based on history. The Red Scrolls Magic, one of the books in Cassandra Clare's extended shadow hunting universe. This one follows a couple of side characters going on a quest. It's quite a fun, um, an exciting adventure. The two characters are probably two of the best from the main 6 books. Um, and so that makes for a really good short book. The Rise and Reign of the Mammals is going all the way up into new favourites. This explores the time period after the dinosaurs, where megafauna ruled the land. So you've got your giant ground sloths, your saber-tooth cats, your mammoths, and it's got really interesting details about bone structures and evolution between different species from then and now. Um, and it's just really interesting to me. Getting there, we've got the saga novels that I read. I will put them up into a jolly good time. It's not quite the style that I like. It's a bit weird at times, and they there's some moments that are a bit jarring and take you out of the story, but overall I'm interested in the characters and interested to see where they are going next. At the School for Good and Evil can go in above average, a middle grade twist on the beautiful girl is good and the outcast is sort of bad tale. I am excited to watch the movie of this for my adaptation board to see if they have done the book justice. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is a jolly good time. This book is huge. It's like 900 pages, um, but it is in depth. The world building is expansive, and the plot is non-stop, and it has lots of twists and turns. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. The Song of Achilles is above average and only just. I don't think Madeline Miller's writing's for me. I enjoyed the tale, but I really had to force myself to pick it up. Um, and I do not have these strong feelings like everyone else seems to, having read the book. The Spanish Love Deception is a why did I do this to myself? This is no small book in terms of romance. It's quite a large book for the romance genre. It's very tropey. I feel like it's a rip-off of some other romance books. And it doesn't do it quite as well. I did not find myself endeared to the characters at all. And to be honest, why did I do this to myself? Why did I finish the book when I could have put it down? Um, Next, Spinning Silver. This is going to be mid. I like Naomi Novak's writing in The Last Graduate, but it is a far cry from the writing in Spinning Silver. It's not the same. I didn't like it. It made no sense. There was too much jumping around, and I didn't like the characters. Um, so I have no strong love for the book. The Egg is the best 3-page story I have read. It's if you type into Google The Egg, you will find it. It will take maybe 10 minutes maximum. So I would definitely recommend. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine is mid. Um, it's alright. It's nothing to write home about. I didn't really get much from it. Um, so yeah, it gets a mid. Thunderhead and the Toll is a jolly good time. Um, I really enjoyed where the series ended up. Um, it was quite exciting, and I really enjoyed the sort of themes that it explored. Terry Pratchett's Thief of Time, above average. It was a little bit all over the place at some points for me, but overall, I thought it was good, and there were some funny parts for sure. The Thousand Names by Django Wexler is probably going to be an above average, almost mid, just, you know, just in the above average section. It is a bit too much military fantasy for me, but it has some excellent world building, and um, I am interested to see where it goes. I just don't know how much I am excited to see where it goes. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a jolly good time. There's a lot of chapters in this book, and there are a lot of interesting chapters in this book where the format that it's written in is slightly different. There's one, actually, I won't spoil it, but it's not traditional sort of first or third person following one character the whole time. Which I think adds to what the story is about. It is about two friends who fall in together into a friendship based on video games and their love of video game creation. Twilight of the Mammoths, I'm gonna put in above average. I think I enjoyed it. Again, once you read so many books of a certain kind, they start to blur into each other. But I think this has a good basis of the time period and the different factors that uh, sort of impacted the extinction of the mammoths. Under the Whispering Door is a jolly good time. Potentially a new favourite, I think. I have the urge to reread this, and so I think after a second read, it might sort of nudge its way up higher in my list of favourite books of all time. I thought it was really interesting and explored a lot of good themes, and the characters really shone. And it's probably one that a lot of people should read. The Viscount Who Loved Me. I'm going to put it in No Strong Feelings, and then I'm going to put The Viscount Who Loved Me, the second epilogue, in Why Did I Do This to Myself? And in fact, I didn't do this to myself anymore. I have soft DNF'd the series. I might come back to it later, but I have no high hopes or strong urges to continue the series at this point. I think the TV series is more my speed and is more how I like to consume this particular series. Why has nobody told me this before? Is no strong feelings. The only strong feeling I have is why has nobody told me this before? Is in fact everyone has told me this already before in several self-help books. And lastly is Wonders of the Solar System. I like to read Brian Cox's books to keep myself refreshed on my astrophysics knowledge. I like the diagrams and the pictures that come with it because I feel like they are a really good representation. Um, if you're looking to get into astrophysics, I would definitely say these are a good place to start. It gives you a good understanding of a lot of ideas. And it also gives a good background knowledge. I have definitely learnt a few things reading these books. And I just like the way they're told as well. So, that is my list. As you can see, not that many new favourites compared to the other two sections. And not that many down at the bottom either. It might look like a bit of a jumble. Um, a bit of a jumble in terms of genres and age ranges. I enjoy non-fiction, middle grade, some YA, and a bunch of fantasy. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into what kind of books I like to read, and I hope to see you around.